Welcome, everybody, to Signal 11 Outdoor Podcast. Today, we got a special guest. We got Phil Salvo from Salvo's Customs, and we're going to be talking about custom rods today and building, and we're talking to the builder himself. Phil, how are you?
Pretty good, Steve. How you doing, man?
Good. How's everything out there? Getting ready for the season?
Yeah, it starts in a few days. Tuesday of next week will be the first of a tog.
Good. I've known Phil for a while now, and he's got some really interesting stuff going on right now. And so, Phil, why don't you get us updated on what's happening these days with Salvo's Customs? That's the name of it, right? Salvo's Customs.
Yeah, we really haven't changed it much. We were started out as a bucktail company. I just got to the level of where I was making rods on the side for myself and a few friends. And I just noticed that it progressed more and more of people asking for that more than the bucktails. So I just shifted the whole business over and started building rods.
Yeah, wow. And how do you like the I mean, it's a totally different transition from one to the other. How do you like it?
It's a huge transition, but I love it, man. It's a little bit more a slower pace.
Yeah.
You can actually put a little bit more detail to the rod and more of what you want for the customer, and I actually enjoy it a little bit more because you get to actually see someone using your product over and over and over again, and it's just it makes me feel good. I enjoy it. I like to watch people catch fish and get their PBs.
Absolutely, and I know you like to catch fish as well. The thing I wanted to say, just listening to what you're saying real quick, I don't have, I never really went out for any custom rods. I was kind of a off the shelf guy, but I ended up getting one, and it's not a Salvo's, but the next one is going to be a Salvo's. And I think one of the most interesting things is, I guess for me as the end user, it's really nice to have exactly what you said. It's really nice to have something customized for you. Especially I had input, on what I wanted, the type of grip, a little bit about the color and design.
Yeah.
That's the customization is really cool. And I feel better actually using it because I actually feel like there's some heart and soul into this rod that I'm using in, whether I'm jigging or surf casting or whatever. And so I love it. And the word customization, I think, is you'll know better than me. I think it's a huge part of the lure to, no pun intended, the lure for people to have a custom rod to get all the components and stuff that they want and for it to look like what they want. And knowing that you handmade it is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, also too, it brings more confidence into the fisherman himself. Particularly me, I was just like you. I would buy stuff off the rack until one day, my father, who was in the industry for years, handed me a custom rod, and he was like, "Hey, just try this." And I noticed a total difference in the rod. The sensation was different. The way everything was laid out, and I was like, "Wow, I really like this. I want one for myself." And I went into that route, and now I see it even with my clients. I have guys come to me, "Hey, I want this blank because I know it's like this. I want it set this way." I mean, it's like building a race car. A guy wants a certain thing for the car to do, similar to a rod, and it brings a lot, like I said, a lot more confidence in your fishing.
I can agree with you on that. I'm guessing you have probably a mix of customers that are new to the custom rod thing, and then the guys that's all they use, correct?
Yeah, I do. And it's a little harder for the guy who is just starting out with his first rod. A lot of guys look at the price opposed to going into a store and picking up a rod for $400. They look at the price and they're like, do I really want to do this? What happens if it breaks? All these little things that add into it. But then when they see someone using a custom rod and they're like, wait, he's out fishing me for some reason. And it's not just because of the lure they're using. It's because that person has a little bit more confidence. He has the sensitivity in his hand. It's just a whole different world. And I was the same way. I mean, if you look behind me, that's only a fraction of my collection. The ceiling is loaded. The whole other side of the room is loaded. You end up now starting to go into the specific species, the specific styles. and it's like hunting. I know a lot of guys that own 20 different guns, and I'm like, what is it for? And I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm like, what is it for? Because
Yeah,
I'm the same way. And they break it
right.
down. Well, I use this for this. I use this for that. I can understand it. I'm the same way. So yeah,
It's funny just to relate it. You mentioned hunting. Years ago, as I, was a young man, somebody said to me, I had a grunt call, and somebody said to me, "Oh, you're going to own 10 of them one day." And I'm like, "Why? I love the one I have." Well, I probably own 15 of them now. Now I make them. It's the same thing. It's a tool. A grunt call is a tool to help
yep,
you track bucks in, and you find little things that you love about maybe the different people who make them, the different quality of the product, the
hmm
sound, everything. And fishing rod, I think, is much more intricate as far as you know, getting the feel, having everything about it that you like, and how it matches
yeah,
up with the reel you're using. So I can see where this could be something that once, like you said, and once you start using a custom rod, I could see where you'd figure, you know what, instead of me wasting money on rods off the shelf, I might as well get one built to the specs I want. And by bouncing the
yeah.
information off of you, I'm sure you can guide them right to where they need to be.
Yeah, I do, and I try to be as honest as possible with them. Sometimes, the honesty hurts because the guy's like, "Oh no, I'm not going to spend that type of money." I'm like, "Well, when you go and buy a car or something, do you buy the cheapest one that you know is going to break down in a couple of months, or are you going to buy the one that's just a little bit more money and might get a couple more years out of it?" And then it goes into the details they want. It's just so big of a customization that it's insane. You can't keep up to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. The customization part, I'll say that I know when you had the jigs going, the detail on the jigs was amazing. I was always surprised. Kind of. I would call you up sometimes and say, Phil, I need something to kind of look like this or that, or mimic something, or match up to one of my baits. And next thing I know, I'd have a package in the mail and I'd open it up and it was overwhelmingly good. I mean, it was a really, really high level of detail, very different than a lot of the other stuff that was out there. And with the
Thank you.
rods, I mean, I haven't, just the photos and stuff that you post on your social media. So I mean, like, am I correct that you were heavily detailed with the jigs, and now it looks like you're doing the same thing with the rods, right?
Yeah, it's almost the same. I have a rod that I'm building right now for a friend of ours in the club, and he asked for a Mexican themed rod, and I sat and literally did about 2.5 to 3 hours of research just to make sure
Yeah.
I had every colorway down pat. And you look at it, and when I sent him the pictures, he was just like, "Dude, you hit it right on the head." Like all the colors popping out and everything. I mean, you have to. You just have to. It's what separates you from every other guy out there.
Are you strictly making saltwater rods? You do freshwater rods? You do jigging rods? Do you do surf rods as well?
I really tend to do a little bit more of jigging and like bucktail rods because that's what
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of. I know how the
Right.
rod should be set up and the feel of it. I do build surf rods here and there. It's not as abundant as the popping and jigging rods. But freshwater, I did a couple of them. I mean, there's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually trying to learn how to do fly rods because I have a lot of guys that I'm friends with that fly fish. And I'll be honest, I still haven't got the knack of that yet because I'm not that big of a fly fisherman. But everything else, I can build without a problem. It's really not any different from a regular rod.
Right. Now that's cool. I mean, I'm guessing that obviously you're testing a lot of your own stuff out, the blanks and the components and stuff, right? I mean, you're out there fishing. I know you fish a lot.
Yeah, I do. I actually have my own blank that we just finished building up and getting together. I tested it so much, and hopefully this season, which I'll be out a lot more than normal, I would be able to like put it to the work and then bring it out to the public, saying, "Hey, this is my blank and this is what I
Right.
created." You know.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I was It's funny because I knowing you and I've talked to you now that I knew you were making rods and stuff. I try to before I get one built because I'm going to have you build me one definitely.
Oh,
I
100%.
just yeah, I just been. I think what I got to do is I'm going to once the season opens here and I get out and do some fluke fishing and stuff. I'm just going to start to because I never really thought about it before. I'm going to start to compile a little mental list of what I think the next rod would be for me that you'll build me. And I like I said, I'm used to buying a couple rods here and there, and then they end up in the back corner without a reel on them. And I was just before we got on, I just stuck my head out in the garage and I was looking. I'm like, yeah, I got to start to focus on what I want. Because when you go to a store, sometimes you grab something off the shelf and, whether it's the price or where it's, point of sale, where it's sitting. Sometimes you may end up making a decision that maybe you didn't spend a lot of time seeing what it feels like. But
Right.
knowing that I could say to you, Phil, this is what kind of grip I'd like, this is maybe the type of components I'd like, with, of course, all of your suggestions. I think it's going to make me think a lot harder and longer about what I want. So that way, when I finally get it, it's going to be something that's going to just become my go-to.
Yeah, and also you want it to be the extension of your hand. A lot of guys don't look at it that way. My father taught me that. That was something, because he was a commercial fisherman, and he always told me it's a tool, it's an extension of your hand. And he's right. He's 100% right. I have had rods that not custom built, but put together, and I wasn't happy with them. I wasn't able to
Mm.
fish with them. I didn't feel the sensitivity right, and I'm starting to understand that as I'm getting older and longer as I'm in the industry. The more customized and the more that you have what you want on it,
Right.
the more confident you feel, the more fish you'll catch. I mean,
Right.
and I send you a lot of fluke pitches, and I have
Yeah.
a lot of guys I fish with that. I'll tell you, I catch a lot of fluke, and
Yeah.
that's the species that I target. So I want my rod to be 100%. I can't have anything else.
Right. Right. No, I understand. And it's funny. I was going to ask you that. What is Salvo's favorite target? And it's fluke then.
It's fluke, and my other one, which a lot of guys always thought was tog, because I always get told about my tog jigs. It's actually sheep's head.
Oh, okay.
I target them in the back bays, early in the season from my kayak, and it's just another, besides fluke, it's just another fish that I'm very passionate about. It's a very hard
Yeah.
species to catch.
Yeah. No, I got you. And you're mentioning where's like your main grounds of your fishing? Because I know you're in Brooklyn, correct?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn. I'm right in Shipshead Bay. I'm a Jamaica Bay guy, Jamaica
Mm-hmm.
Raritan Bay, but I'm deep in Jamaica Bay when I fish.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then the other thing I was thinking about, I wanted to ask you because you do, I know you kayak fish. I know you're fishing on the boats. Same rod. If I get a custom rod, it could be utilized for both, or is there something any difference?
No, I mean, you can have a rod built for everything as long as you tell me that in advance. A lot of guys, especially myself, kayak fishing, I like a shorter butt
Mhm.
opposed to a regular, 15, 16-inch butt, which I would use on the boat or use from the surf. I just like everything a little bit more compact because you're on a kayak, you don't have much room to move around.
Right.
Um, so yeah, you would be a little bit more specific on what you would want and how you would want it.
Hmm. And then I was wondering what kind of like what's the whole process if a customer first of all how's a customer reaching out to you? What's your what's your main point of contact?
Most guys contact me through Instagram. It's really the only
Okay.
platform I have right now, so
Okay.
I get DM'd a lot. If not, it's, to be honest, like with Fishing the Atlantic group that we hang out with, the whole club. A lot of guys will contact me because they have my number. They'll call my phone, but it's
Right.
mostly through Instagram.
So somebody reaches out to you, you get back to them. Just give us because some of the things I want to do with this podcast is for the guy that or lady that maybe is new to hunting or fishing or whatever. So somebody who's new to buying a custom rod and getting in touch with the owner, and what's the whole process like? How do they go about? We know how they reach out to you now. Then what? Is there like a series of questions, or how do you
Yeah.
go about it? I'm just curious.
The best way to go about it with not only me or with anyone when you're having a rod built is, you contact the builder and you're like, hey, listen, uh, I'm looking to have a rod built. I have a price range, a budget. That's the first thing, because I can put you into a normal budget or I can put you into a very high budget. It's all considering how much you want to spend. But from there, we can talk about what you're going to target. I need to know the species you're going after. I need to know the style of, how you want it with your grips and everything. And then once I get that down pat with you, I'll go through a colorway. I'll go through how the guides, especially like a conventional rod. Guys, it's either going to be straight or acid wrapped, what do you prefer? And then if it's their first time, they normally ask me. And I'll tell them, if you want more sensitivity, I would go, with acid, I would go this way. And just helping guide them through that process. And this, at the end, hearing, okay, let's just do it, is the whole thing. It's not much. It's just, hey, what are you targeting? How much do you want to spend? And how do you want it to look? Like, do you want me to go wild? Do you want me to go mild? I mean, I got some builds that I'm doing that are insane, like what the guys are asking. And it's not a problem. I could do it. They're asking for logos, decals, because these guys have fished big tournaments. And I'm like, do you want the best of the best? That's the whole trick. And they'll tell me, yeah, this is what we want. And I'm like, okay, it's not a problem. Just, give me a couple of weeks to build it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you next is how long it takes. So it's a couple-week process. Of course, it depends on how backed up you are, right?
Yeah,
and then,
actually, it is. Yeah, the backing up part is the whole thing.
yeah. So if you're not backed up, it takes a couple weeks to do a rod that's intricate, like a nice looking rod.
Yeah.
And
I mean, heavily detailed, or probably with no waiting list, is about a week and a half.
Okay, that's actually excellent.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you two things, and I'm going to mention them both so I don't forget. But I want to ask you something about acid wrap. But before that, just to give people an idea that are watching this, maybe they were watching this because they hunt and they do fish, and now they're like, you know what, I wouldn't mind having a custom rod. And they're not sure why they even need it, but I think maybe you could just give us an idea of some of the really cool personalization stuff that you've done, whether it be flags or logos or names, because there's a lot to that. I like I was saying, I think earlier in this conversation, is I kind of feel better using it because I know, like, somebody made it for me. I had input in it. It feels great. It's exactly the length I want. Everything I want is right. But I got to say, it may seem superficial, but when I look at it and I got my name on it, or it says Jersey Fluke Bellies on it because that's my company, or lip glue or whatever,
Yeah.
that kind of it's something that's cool. When I grab that, like if there's 2 or 3 there, I'm tending to lean toward that one because it really feels a lot more closer to my heart too. I mean, when I'm fishing, listen, we all know sometimes you're sitting out there and you're jigging away and you might not be having a great day, and any little confidence booster like you said, confidence is gigantic in fishing. I'm not sure
it is.
I'm not sure if it's gigantic in hunting, but because I do that a lot. But in fishing, that confidence is big because it almost borders on a line of superstition. But if it doesn't work, that goes away. But when it does work over and over and over. So I think the personalized, custom looking rod that I have that feels great is awesome. So if you could just give people an idea, like where can they take it? If they want to do a giveaway, they could do a rod or a company logo. Yeah. And tell us something cool that you've done.
I have quite a few rods. I had a friend of ours come to me, and he was, heavy into comic books. And his whole life, he watched the Hulk. Everything was the Hulk, the Hulk, the Hulk.
Yeah.
And we were out one day fishing, we're in a high roller tournament, and he's like, hey, man, I want you to build me a rod, but I want it to be the Hulk theme. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a problem. How crazy you want me to go? And he's like, just do you. You know, and I love when a customer tells me that, hey, this is the theme, do you? And I'm like, okay. And then when I gave it to him, I literally had every color from the original Hulk from when we were kids. I had the logo on it. I had his name on it. And when I gave it to him, I mean, just the joy in his eyes. And I see him every time, and he always has that rod. He's like, it's my lucky rod, you know? And I'm like, yeah, I can understand that. I'm the same way. I did another one where it was, if you remember He-Man as you know, the cartoon as kids. The guy wanted Skeletor. And I'm like, hey, listen, I could do the Skeletor logo and all the coloring. I also have a metal pendant that I could put into the grip for you. And, you know, I did it. And when I gave it to him, he was just shocked. He was like, dude, this is insane. He goes, you matched every color to the comic. And I'm like, yeah, you know, and then, you know, a couple of months later, I seen him and I'm like, hey, how's the rod working out? You know, that's the first thing I asked him. And he's like, hey, man, I think my fishing got better just because of the rod. And I'm like, okay. And like you said before, it's a superstition. I'm the same way. Like, I have a lucky hat I always wear.
Yeah.
And everyone who knows me knows I wear my Jigga Beast hat everywhere I fish. If I don't have it, I don't feel like I'm going to, you know, catch anything. I don't feel like I'm going to win that day, you know?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's cool. And that's exactly what I was getting at. Like people who themed rods or and you know, stuff like that is really cool, especially when they don't give you the details too much and let you run with it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that is definitely cool. So that's good. I was thinking, you know, I was thinking of doing like a nice custom rod for a giveaway from one of my businesses, and you know, stuff like that is really interesting. That it brings a whole nother level of shopping and buying something that you like. I mean, most of us are addicted to fishing, just like we're addicted to hunting or addicted to other things too. But so it's just really cool. I want to go back, and this is why I said it before, so I didn't forget it. You mentioned the acid wrap. So I have one rod that's acid wrap. I had no idea what acid wrap was a couple of years ago. I actually thought they put the guides on wrong, but I have one acid wrap rod that I use for jigging, and I love it. But what I noticed was I really love it. And I usually, if I go on a boat, I'll have two or three, or if I'm on a kayak, two or three rods with me. One of them usually just sits there. But finally, I think I broke a line. So one day at home, just for the hell of it, I switched the reels. And I kind of realized, I realized that the reel was a huge part of why I loved it, because that reel never came. It's a Daiwa reel, a high-end Daiwa reel that I don't even. Today they're worth a fortune for some reason. I don't know much about reels, but that reel on that acid rod is what I pretty much was go-to forever. Then when I switched the reel, then I started to notice that it's a whole combination of things between the reel, the height, the weight, how it feels. But I just wanted you to touch on the acid wrap thing versus the non, because I want to learn about it as well, because like if I'm going to order one, I'm not sure which way I would go. I mean, if you could just hit on what the benefits are and what's more popular.
Yeah, so it's a lot of guys do acid, and there's a reason. It's not just for the popularity. It's more of a natural lay of the line on the rod. So when your rod goes parabolic and bends, you want the line to be underneath it. You want the guides to actually hold the line. Opposed to it being straight, where it's coming out like this, that line is just basically laying on the rod. So you have no sensitivity. You don't have that true feeling of the line. So a lot of guys, especially in the jigging world, if you're slow pitch jigging, snap jigging, a lot of guys don't realize that acid wrap is the way. You feel everything that way. And I noticed that the line comes off the reel a lot smoother. Mm-hmm. There's nothing really binding it. It's just flying right off. And I tend to have a lot more rods that are acid than straight. I'm more comfortable with them, and I find it just to be a better setup, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Here's something else I was just, and again, I'm talking to you now as I'm learning about this as I'm talking to you about the custom rods that you build. So I'm actually going to ask you another question that, for me personally, because what's more popular? What type of grip is more popular? In other words, are the cork grips, are the two-piece grips, the one-piece grips? And the reason why is almost everything I have is two-piece. So they look nice because you got a lot more customization in that section. But what are you finding from what you use? You fish a lot more than me. You fish a lot more than me. So what is the feel that you notice that you like better on, and the reasons for the different types of butt ends and grips and material? And what are most people going after?
Most guys, so I noticed the bass guys, the guys that striped bass and bluefish, they're all EVA foam. They want a full foam. The tog guys, if I'm doing a conventional setup for them, a lot of them are like, hey, can we mix it between the foam and the cork, or can we just do straight cork? Now you get to your fluke guys, which are similar to the jigging guys, which do like jig tog and bucktail and all that.
Right.
They do more of like a freshwater setup. It's kind of wild because they'll do a cork up top on their foregrip, and then their rear grip will be split, and it'll be foam. It's very rare I get a guy that says I want the whole thing cork. Or they'll do like I've been doing lately, which is my new thing. I like the lighter the better because I'm holding a rod for 6-7 hours. I'll just do either foam or cork up top and nothing on the bottom except the butt.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. Yeah, a lot of guys think I'm crazy for doing it. They're like, oh, you're going to scratch up the blank. I'm like, nah, it's epoxied. Yeah. You can always sand that down and have it redone. But yeah, I mean, each species I noticed has a different setup. And
really,
certain guys go for it a certain way. But the split grip is the way right now for everybody. A lot of guys, like I just did 2 builds just now, and they're both split grip.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, when we get to put this up, I'll have some photos on there for people to see. And of course, just wanted to touch another thing is, yeah, that's interesting what you're saying. And obviously, the guy that gets one custom rod in his hand and uses it, and then, like you said, with the different species, I could see where guys will want to try some different setups, especially getting a lot of input from you, because for me on the hunting end of the business, and I get tons of feedback from lots of people, so I only know so much, but I learned a lot from the customers all over the country that use it. For you probably get a ton of feedback from everybody that's buying your stuff and trying it, right?
Yeah, I get it. Like, just when we just recently did the show in Long Island, Ward Melville, I had guys coming up to the booth that they had purchased rods from me, and they literally sat there for like 25 minutes to a half hour talking to me about how the rod felt in their hand and how everything was, and I'm the type of person, if you have anything that's bad, I want to know.
Absolutely.
I don't try to I want to know what's wrong, so I can correct that on the next build. But you're right. I get tons of feedback. I mean, it's crazy on how much people will tell you how they feel about their setups, and what they want to do on their next setup and how they want to better it.
Yeah, it's funny because it's the question. I was just thinking, like like a general question about everything we're talking about, and I think you really hit it right there, talking about the people coming to you at the shows and stuff. Because my question was like, well, who really needs a custom fishing rod, and why do they need it? And really, the answer is everybody will benefit. Anybody who gets it will most likely benefit from it. It's just a matter of what point in your, are you a casual? Do you fish? Do you pull out like a fishing rod and go fishing once a year, twice a year, and then maybe it doesn't really matter? But the thing is, when everybody benefits from it, because if you can get high quality, if you can get it customized, and you can get input from a guy like yourself, where you buy something off the shelf, you're not getting any input. Whoever designed it, they make 50 different ones similar, and hopefully you grab the right one, and he has it in stock. But everything you just said, that last couple minutes there, talking about the Ward Melville show, which we did think, we both do that show. That's gigantic, because especially with like in the deer world, the hunting world, the deer scent, I can tell you my experience from other customers and how they use it and all, but you could still screw that up a little bit when you're hunting. But with a fishing rod, if a guy's targeting a certain type of fish and he's going over a rail jigging
Mm-hmm.
and he likes to fish this kind of water or this depth, you are a wealth of information from everything that you've experienced personally and everything that you've experienced from your customers that
Yeah.
have all of that experience. And you're obviously kind of guy they love to talk to. You're a great dude. So they come there, they
I
bullshit with you.
appreciate that.
Probably you have to kick them out. You probably got to move them. You got to have a carpet you could pull to get them
I
moving
mean,
along.
I don't mind, honestly. I always say, a lot of times, like, a lot of my clients actually become my friends.
Yeah,
And over the years, you get to know these people, and you get to hear every little thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. I never turn down anyone telling me something. I like to listen. I like to hear it. More information, the better. It just makes you a
yeah,
better fisherman and a better person
yeah,
in that way. I mean, just like with me and you, me and you first met, and I grabbed the clam color fluke bellies, and first time I used it, a couple of guys like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, you gotta try it, man." And then
yeah,
the confidence of it, I was like, "Nah, I need more of these." And me and you would talk about it, and every time I seen you, I would bring it up. And there's nothing wrong with giving input. There's nothing wrong with
no,
accepting the input. You know, uh,
absolutely right.
I know a lot of guys, not just builders, but bucktail guys and regular fishermen. They don't like to hear feedback at all, and they'll look at you like, no, I don't want to hear that. And I'm like, dude, it's just part of the game. That's how you become better.
Yes. Touch on that for a minute. The constructive criticism or just harsh criticism or whatever. If you don't learn from that, you're missing out. You're missing out because I
Yes.
get it. I mean, a lot of times somebody who's got a complaint or something, they might not come to you with it. But like you said, I think it's so important. If you got to complain about something I made or sold you, or
Yeah.
the way I described how to use it, if you don't agree with it, I love to hear it because I'm always learning. I mean, I've been hunting my whole
Mm-hmm.
life. I've been making hunting products for 19 years, um, but I'm always learning. And here's an interest. I'm going to segue into this because you mentioned we mentioned Ward Melville show, and then we mentioned the fact you mentioned the dirty clam color Jersey fluke
Yeah.
bellies. So real quick, the Ward Melville show. I do a couple shows a year. I know Phil does. The only show I do in New York is that Ward Melville show. That show's
Mm-hmm.
off the hook. No pun intended. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a pun
It
intended,
is.
but it's an awesome, awesome show. If somebody's never been there and they're from Jersey, you might want to do the Ward Melville show, and it's a nice area. You can stay somewhere and make a night of it too. And I see Phil and your friends. I see you guys at the Jersey shows, the New
Yeah.
York shows, and all, and it's really cool. But here's the thing about kind of accepting criticism and listening to customers. So going back, I mean, I don't know how many years ago it was. My son and I, we make the Jersey fluke bellies in our basement. We're partners on that business. So we're getting ready for the Ward Melville show, and we're making as many Jersey fluke bellies as we can. And here, I think this was our third year now or fourth year at the Ward Melville show, and we've never ever been able to make it past 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning with enough stock. So we're going to try to correct that problem next year. But this is the interesting thing. We're at the show, and this pertains to me and you, Phil. And I don't even know if I ever told you the story from this aspect of it or view of it. So we're at the show, and my son's we're unloading everything. We're late as usual because it's a 2-hour ride. We're coming from Jersey, and so we're in Long Island, and on Long Island. So we're unloading everything. Get the table set up real quick, and it's funny because we're late. It screws us up because everybody who's been there, the vendors that are all set up, they want to come and BS with us. Hey, man, what's going on? Because we're always at the same tables. So my son says to me, "We got everything pretty much out." And my son says, "Dad, we got some of the whites that are off color. They got burnt. They're not. They don't look good." So we're like, you know what? I said, put them out. We're not hiding anything. People are seeing them, and let's see. If they want them, they can buy them. I mean, we do a lot of custom colors that are only made for the show, and then sometimes down the road we'll turn them into a stock color. But at this particular show, it was a few years ago. You were there, and you guys were looking at stuff, and you're like everybody else. You're looking at our table, and we got maybe 50 different colors of baits laid out all over the place, and you grabbed a pack of those. I think one of your buddies grabbed a pack of those. We only had about maybe 10 of those, and they were literally overheated a little bit, and they came out with a tinge of tan to them. And then I'll never forget it. So we sell them all, no big deal. Now I think it was that Ward Melville show just passed, right? What was it in? Was it in March?
Yeah, it was March 2nd or 3rd, I think it was, if I remember correctly.
Right. So the year I'm talking about was in March. You reached out to me early summer. You're kayak fishing, you're Back Bay kayak fishing, or I should say Jamaica Bay kayak fishing, and you're telling me about this bait that, we know it's a Jersey fluke belly. We established that. But you're telling me about the color. I don't know if you remember this. I didn't know what the heck you were talking about because it was not something we made on purpose. So you sent me, I asked you for a piece, whatever, if you had one. You sent me a little tiny piece of that fluke belly, what was left of it.
Yep.
And you sent it back to me, and me and my son looked at it, and we said, oh, my God, those are the ones that we burnt, and we were going to throw them in the garbage. Well, we turned it into, we color matched it. They're no longer burnt. We color matched it exactly to that. And I'm going to tell you, those have been our number one selling color for the last 3 years. That we call it dirty clam. It's got a little black piece flake in it, a little orange flake in it, and it's kind of like it's an off-white, almost with an orangish tint. And they're all a little different because we hand make them. This podcast right now is not about Jersey fluke bellies, but my point is that you purchased them. You gave me your feedback. Your feedback was tremendous on the positive. You were so positive, like how well they did, and they've become basically our number one selling colored bait.
I mean, to be honest, it was. I like to take chances with new stuff, and my friend Rashawn that fishes with me all the time. We bought them from you, and we walked through the show. We went back to my booth, and he was like, "What do you think?" I said, "Dude, it's the same color as a clam." I was like, "They have to work for everything, And we don't just target just one species, me and him. We target porgies, weakfish, everything." And that season, I used them, and the results, I don't. Maybe it was just because I had a couple of pieces of fresh bait on there with yours. I took it off, because I like to do my research as well, and I was still slaying them. And I'm like, it's the color. It looks like a clam 100%. And I took it from Jamaica Bay all the way to Orient Point, and I was catching porgies and weakfish with it. And that's when I was telling you, I'm like, that's the color. You have to make this color all the time. And you're right. Like, look what it's become. I got guys coming to me all the time. Hey, man, I put an order in for the dirty clam, and I sit there and I laugh. I'm like, they should only know the true background of what that was,
Yeah, that's it. That's how it went, and it comes down to the fact that you guys took a chance on it, and like you said, I have a lot of customers that like to try something different, but you guys were doing really well with it, and there's really nothing that we can, between the hunting stuff and the deer stuff, turkey stuff, the fishing scent, the baits. There's nothing you can sell year after year after year unless it works at some capacity,
No, it does, and that really did get away from what you were about to say. Your fishing scents, we used them in a couple of tournaments, and there was a couple of them that I got from you, and we have our little Italian joke on the boat, me and a couple of the boys, and we were calling it because we didn't want anyone else on the boat to know what we were using. We were calling it the gabagool.
The gabagool.
And my friend's like, "Hey, you got the gabagool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got it in my bag." And it now became a joke that when the guys came to the show, they're like, "Hey, are they here?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, you need the gabagool?" They're like, "Yeah." I said, "He has it. Just go inside."
I love it. That's fantastic. That's excellent. That's cool, man. I love it. It's all good stuff. I'm going to probably, not probably. I'll do a podcast on the Jersey fluke bellies and the lip glue and stuff, and maybe I'll have you back on as a guest, or do a couple of seconds, because you guys are out there. Listen, you're the New York crew. You guys are killing it out there, man, and you got awesome social media. the most important thing about you guys is whenever I see you and the crew that you seem to always be fishing with, you guys look like you're having a blast all the time. I mean,
Yeah,
it looks inviting. Like, we're gonna, I'm gonna probably do something down the road with Josh, hopefully with Gypsy Charters. You guys look like you're having a blast, and it looks like you just want to be. If you're at a rail, you want to be on a rail with guys like you to the left or right of you,
yeah.
because there's ball busting going on. There's all kinds of shit being said, and fish are getting caught because between
Yeah.
all of you guys have so much experience that if something's not working, you're trying something else. So, yeah, I mean, anybody who can get on a boat next to you guys, I think, is going to have a good day on the water and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. Like a lot of times we'll go on a different boat. We won't just be on the Gypsy. We do travel a lot of us, and I let customers know. As someone who used to be a deckhand, I let them know. I'm like, hey, listen, if we get a little crazy the way we talk or anything, please let us know. Don't go run to the captain. Don't go run to the deck, and let us know personally, because we could get a little crazy. We like to have fun. We like to laugh. We don't take it that serious. And that's the whole thing. You got to enjoy life. We have, serious lifestyles besides fishing. Fishing is what, brings relaxation and fun. And, the Jigga Beast, that's our clique,
Right.
These guys are like, we're all like brothers, we talk, we say things to each other that no one else can say to us, because we're goofing on each other. We know each other so much, but each one of us has their own specific style of fishing and way of doing things that we learn from each other. We laugh with each other, and that's the whole thing. And we cry with each other when something goes wrong. We're there for each other, and you want that in fishing. You want to have that camaraderie. You want to have that that bond with each other. You're out all day, 8 hours. What are you gonna do? Argue? No, you want to have fun. And I tell you all the time, for you and your son to come out, hang out with us. You guys will have a blast.
Yeah, we're gonna make it happen this year. We're gonna get out there and definitely fish with you guys and have fun. Before we wrap it up, I Salvo's Customs on Instagram. Is it just Salvo's? Is it _customs or?
I think it's underscore the way I have it. Let me double check.
Yeah, really that's okay. No, we got to make sure people know how to get in touch with you. So
it's Salvo's. Salvo's _customs. Okay, I had changed it from what it originally was.
All right, so we got that down. So we can, anybody who's looking for a really nice custom rod to definitely reach out to you and get that going, because there's no doubt I've seen the quality, and when they get onto the I've seen it especially at the show, man. The show, you come to a show, you get to talk to you get to actually see the stuff you have there. I mean, it's awesome. Real quick, you mentioned who else are we looking at? You got some other social media stuff that you want us to look at? You said you have a group. And
we got my boy Rich RT runs the Jigga Beast. That's our our club, our team. And then you have Fishing the Atlantic, which is ran by my boy Calvin. That's our fishing club. That that's actually, to be honest, like 4 teams in one.
Right.
And I mean, those are the main guys. The Jigga Beast and Fishing the Atlantic. Those are the boys. And
good.
That's our people.
Cool. So everybody can check you guys out there on those that social media, and I'm going to mention the guys that got me started in doing all of this stuff, which is they have a great podcast, New Jersey Multi-Species Podcast. And if you haven't seen that, Phil, you've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, I know them. Yeah, they're cool dudes.
Yeah, they got to have you on there. Definitely, they're doing a good job.
No, they are. They're
doing a good job. Yeah, and they kind of got me involved in this, getting on here and doing this stuff. So I have to give them a ton of credit because of that. So with that being said, Phil, I think we're going to wrap this up. Anything else you want to add, or I think we covered everything?
I mean, I think we covered everything. Is get out there, enjoy what you're doing, have a good time, and tight lines. It's just basically where it should be.
Cool. And I think if anybody's even thinking about getting a custom rod, they should reach out to you, because you're easy to have a conversation with, even if they got to get some info from you and sit on it a little bit and think about it. But I would say just do it, because once you have one or two, I think they're going to be kind of into that whole aspect of having a better piece of tool in the toolbox than just something off the shelf that maybe isn't even going to work for him,
Yeah, you got it. I mean, you hit it right on the head right there. That's it.
Yeah. All right, Phil, listen, thanks again. I appreciate you coming on here, and
Thank you.
Look, yeah, we're looking forward to getting out on the water with you, my son and I, and we're going to probably have you back because I have some other ideas that maybe we can talk about, and you could help out with some tactics. Maybe we just strictly talking tactics and targeting and what process because I think a lot of people love YouTube for learning, and this will be on YouTube. So, but once again, thanks so much. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon.
All right, thanks, man. Thank you. All right.
Take care.